I am the co-founder of the Institute of Child Psychology. We're so excited to have Jennifer Kolari here with us today. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to it.
Jennifer is the founder of Connected Parenting. She is a child and family therapist, and she is the author of the bestsellers Connected Parenting and You Ruined My Life. Jennifer, I'm going to jump in there with Connected Parenting. I'm a mama myself, and I think so often when we hold that newborn baby in our arms, we have this vision of connection and harmony. But as life progresses and we're dealing with work and school and daycare and activities and these emerging fiery personalities, it can often feel like anything but connection and harmony. How do we stay connected to our kids?
Oh, that's such a good question. You know, there's another layer to this too, which is we have this intense feeling that it should be easy. We shouldn't have to work at this. If you're a good mom or a good dad, you should be able to have this easy connection. And it's just not that easy. I mean, we love our kids, and there's a difference between loving our kids a lot and being really connected to them. So I think there's a few things that are really important to do. And it's before you can actually connect to another human being, you also have to connect to yourself. So getting to a place where you know yourself, where you're taking care of yourself, where there's some self-parenting and some self-love is a really important part of things. And then once you're able to do that, then it's much easier to connect to your children. Yeah.
Love it. So we start with ourselves first, and we have that connection with ourselves first. And then when we inevitably hit those road bumps with our kids, what do we do? I know that this is part of a much larger conversation, but just initially, what are some of the things that we need to keep in mind as our children become their own people?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the first thing to really remember is that your child is not a mini adult. And when we try to correct them and tell them what to do and keep them on track, they're kids. They're living in the now. They're living in the moment. They're having fun. They don't know about traffic and school and why they should eat, why they need that food, not that food. They're living in the moment in this, and often a very joyous moment. Sometimes they get overwhelmed by negative emotions, but for the most part, they're just kind of enjoying where they are, and we're constantly pulling them out of it. So the one thing to remember is that you're not actually a parent. You're actually a substitute frontal lobe, right? So your job is to organize, prioritize, motivate, help your child take perspective. And their job is to go, no, leave me alone. You're mean. Why? Why do I have to do that? So expecting that pushback a little bit can help, because if we expect our children to go, oh, okay, and then follow us out the door like little ducks, that rarely happens, especially when you multiply that by more than one child. So you have a number of children all wanting to do different things, all living in the now. So the first thing you have to do is really go to meet them where they are. If I was sitting and absorbed in something that I was really enjoying and loving, and somebody said, come on, let's go, how would I feel? What would be happening inside of me? And how do I make that shift? Right. And part of parenting is helping your children to shift through different activities and let something go and start something else. And that's a skill. So it's just meeting them where they are. And this is where the calm technique comes in. This is like, oh my goodness, what are you doing? Oh, that's so cool. Look at that picture you're drawing, or oh, look at that level you're at in whatever you're playing. It's meeting them there first and then saying, now I understand why you don't want to leave. Of course not. This is so much fun. And you do that for 2 or 3 statements without your agenda, and it has to be very genuine and very authentic. Now oxytocin starts flowing. Serotonin starts flowing. Those are beautiful here and now chemicals. Oxytocin is also known as the love drug. So it actually calms the brain down and makes the child want to move towards healthy compliance. Well, my mom's making me feel good. My dad's making me feel good. They get me. They understand me. Okay, I guess I'll go now. And then they go. Right. And so it's usually 3 or 4 of these delightful, delicious moments where you're just connecting with them. Then I usually recommend saying, hey, I know you can do the right thing. I believe in you. I trust you. I know you've got this. I'm pretty sure you're going to be ready in the next couple of minutes. Do what you need to do to get ready. And then often they come. And when they do, it's like, oh, look at you getting ready so fast. That's so great. Don't overdo it. Just be like, nice. Look at that. Okay, let's go. So there's this flow, and that doesn't always work that way. But if you become mindful of this, if you invest in this, it will happen much more often than not.
The calm technique, I've got two questions that were burning from what you just said. The calm technique, can we talk a little bit more about the components of the calm technique?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So there's 4 things that you're going to do. And the calm technique is actually a technique called mirroring, which is actually not a parenting technique at all. It's a therapy technique. And it takes a while to get good at, but even the clumsiest attempts at it will make a huge difference. So there's 4 things you're going to do. You're going to connect first. This is where you take your agenda. Are you kidding me? Not again. What? Like, what? You have to do this. And why would you? You just take it and you park it. I promise you that you get to bring it back. You are a substitute frontal lobe. You have to bring it back. You are co-regulating with your child as they're learning how to move through their life. But in that moment, you have to connect with them first. You also connect with yourself in that moment. Okay, you know what? Parenting can be really hard. This is really stressful. I've got, a timeline. I've got to go, but I'm going to breathe. I'm just going to pull myself back into myself for a moment. And I'm going to connect with myself as well. Just give yourself a little bit of understanding and love in that moment, because parenting is really hard. The next thing is A. So this is the affect matching. So this is where the look on your face has to similarly match theirs. It can't be exact because that's weird. But if they're really joyful and you're going, come on, let's go, those 2 facial expressions that energetically does not match. So you want to be joyful with them. Oh, look what you're doing. That's so cool. Or if they're, I don't know, sad because they thought someone in they're 5 and they thought someone in their class had a crush on them. And you're like, oh, that's so cute. And you got a smile on your face while they're sad. There's not going to be a match. And whenever there's not a neurological match, you're going to get emotions battling with each other to try and bring the other person to understanding where that other person is. And there's usually conflict there. So starting with where they are is really important. That's the affect matching on your face. The third part is the listening. This is where you can summarize, you can clarify, you can paraphrase, you can wonder out loud. It's not so much what you're saying at this stage, it's how you're saying it. And that's really important because children remember how you make them feel, not so much what you say. Actually, all of us are like that. So basically, in this stage, you can clarify. So maybe they're building something and it fell apart again. Oh my gosh, what part of this didn't work for you? Like, when did this first start to fall apart? So there's urgency in my voice, but it's not about me. I'm like, what? When did this start falling apart? That's fear-based. That's not love-based. That's fear-based. And that's not going to work. But if you just have this urgent, like picking out a detail, that can be really helpful for very, very sensitive children. You can summarize, hey, you know what? This happened last week when you were building the spaceship, and now it's happening again with this helicopter, right? So you're kind of pulling information together. You can paraphrase. So the kid says, oh, the people who, make Lego are stupid and they should all be fired. I don't have to agree with him. Mirroring is not about agreeing. Mirroring's it's more like, so you're having a hard time understanding that this is somebody's job. This is what they do. They're getting paid to build this, and it still falls apart for you. So I didn't say they should be fired. I didn't agree. I stepped into his world and had that conversation. And then that can lead to other things. Maybe it's not the Lego. Maybe it's the way you put it together. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you're hungry. Maybe you did it too quickly, whatever. And then the final, there's wondering out loud. So that's sometimes when, I don't know, the child's, really gotten upset about something. It seems out of proportion. It seems disproportionate to what's happened. And you can wonder out loud, I wonder, after you've mirrored about whatever they're building, say, I wonder if it has to do with that birthday party that you didn't get invited to. So you didn't get invited to that. And this tower that you were building came crashing down. So then you're helping your children understand cause and effect a little bit and how emotions collect in the body. And you're really teaching your children the most important thing, which is to feel your feelings first. We're terrified of feelings in our culture. Actually, in many cultures around the world, we try to not feel them. We try to distract ourselves. We try to distract our kids. Here, I'll buy you this. Here, take this. Here's an iPad. Let me make this better for you. And really, the key thing with emotions is learning how to feel them, register them, let them, their information, let your body understand the information, and then you can let them go. And that's actually a really important part of parenting.
Yeah, it's just so interesting as we talk about how we do this with our kids. I think about when I interact with other people through a challenging moment, and that works for me too. When I just feel like someone understands me and is able to walk me through it. It's huge.
Yeah. That's when you can let it go.
Yeah. Jennifer, earlier you mentioned oxytocin, and what I love about your work is when you talk about the neurochemistry of love. Why is it so important?
Well, first of all, it's the language that all of us speak. It is next to food and water. It might even be on par with food and water, the most important thing. It's certainly essential to good mental health and good physical health. When you feel loved, when you feel connection, your immune system upgrades, everything improves in your life. And oxytocin is actually, and there's a number of kind of here and now chemicals, oxytocin, serotonin, there's natural endorphins, there's all these beautiful reward chemicals that when you are, so let's say you're holding a little baby and you're making a little face and they're making a face back. There's this beautiful flood of these gorgeous reward chemicals that feel wonderful in the body. They're not addictive. You don't need more of them the next time. They're just pure and healing and good for you. Unlike, and it's not that dopamine is bad for you, but there's a misuse of dopamine in our culture. Dopamine, for example, gives you pleasure. And then you need more of that thing to give you the same pleasure the next time. So dopamine and adrenaline, they kind of work together. But oxytocin and serotonin are just pure. They're just pure here and now, lovely chemicals that make us feel wonderful. And we are forever craving those chemicals in our life, as we should, because that's what helps us to connect. When there's been a break in that, when there's been trauma, or when there has been a really strained relationship where a child has not had enough of those chemicals, where they just don't feel regularly supported and loved by at least one person, they will end up having a tremendous craving for that their whole life, and they will look elsewhere. They will look for those reward chemicals in all of the ways that human beings do when they're addicted, right? Whether it's drugs or dangerous, I don't know, sexual relationships. Anyway, so there's a real connection between connection and addiction. And that when you have strong, healthy, loving connections, you are more resistant and resilient to addiction of all kinds.
That's so powerful, Jennifer. Just thinking about that right now, everything boils back down to connection and how we do it in a realistic way. So it's not, it's not some idealized version. It's how am I real with you and vulnerable and authentic?
Yes. And it's just moments, just a collection of beautiful small moments. It doesn't have to be this huge epic thing that could make a movie screen every 5 minutes. It could be just a lovely little moment where your kid says, what do you mean there's no cookies left? Instead of going, well, you ate them, so that's why there's no cookies left. I know, right? When you have a craving and you want something and you're sure it's there and then it's empty, that's the worst. That's it. A little tiny moment like that. Now what happens is oxytocin flows, serotonin flows. That child walks away feeling, oh, Daddy gets me. Mommy gets me. And then those moments collect. And what's wonderful about this is as that happens, your child intuitively becomes more and more able to do that for other people. So it strengthens their ability to connect with other people, not just you, but other people.
Jennifer, I can't wait to get into more depth. We have you for a full day on November 20th.
So excited.
Us too. We're going to dive right in. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome.
All right. Thanks, Jennifer.
You're welcome.